This woman named Amelia is struggling to ascend to the top of the air balloon, which is over 20,000 feet above ground level. Despite the extreme danger, she has no choice but to climb to the top in order to release the gas and bring the balloon down, as she risks freezing to death at such high altitude. The frozen ropes make her progress slow and arduous, and her hands are growing frostbitten. She looks upwards, realizing that she still has a considerable distance to go. Desperate to grab the rope beside her, she strains to extend her hand, but suddenly loses her grip and nearly plummets. Her body dangles upside down from the balloon, and the combination of exhaustion, cold, and lack of oxygen causes her to slip into unconsciousness. In a fleeting moment of lucidity, Amelia recalls her husband, who had fallen from a similar balloon years ago while attempting to save her. Her survival instincts kick in, and she rouses herself to try again. With immense effort, she manages to reach the rope and secures it to herself before resuming her ascent. After an agonizing climb, Amelia finally reaches the top of the balloon. However, she is running out of time, so she strikes the frozen gas valve with her hand, but it refuses to budge. Summoning her remaining strength, she rises to her feet and delivers a forceful kick to the valve, finally succeeding in opening it. Gas begins to release gradually, and the balloon starts descending. Exhausted to death, Amelia loses consciousness once again, but as anticipated, the balloon stops rising and continues to descend. 2 years ago, Amelia and her husband, both avid aeronauts, embarked on a fateful flight in a malfunctioning balloon. Despite their efforts to get rid of all excess weight, the balloon continued to plummet. In a selfless act, Amelia's husband chose to jump off the basket, sacrificing himself to give Amelia a chance at survival. Tormented by guilt ever since, Amelia blames herself for her husband's death. One day, Amelia's sister insists on taking her to a social event, where she meets James, an ambitious scientist whose weather theories have been ridiculed by his peers. James has been longing to conduct research and collect data at high altitudes to validate his theories, and he proposes a partnership with Amelia for a balloon adventure. Intrigued, Amelia agrees, secretly harboring a desire to fulfill her late husband's last wish of beating the world record of 23,000 feet. After some fundraising and careful planning, Amelia and James set out to build their balloon. On a sunny morning, they hold a grand launch ceremony, even bringing a dog along for the ride. However, as the balloon ascends to a certain altitude, Amelia shocks everyone by throwing the dog out of the basket, causing panic among the onlookers. But before the dog hits the ground, its parachute is deployed, and it lands safely. Amelia and James ascend to a height of 1,000 feet above the ground, and as they continue their ascent, Amelia changes into her specialized aeronaut clothes. The balloon enters thick clouds, obscuring their vision. Soon, it starts raining, accompanied by lightning and thunder, signaling the arrival of a storm. The balloon is tossed about, threatening to overturn at any moment. Amelia is momentarily swept away by the wind, but she manages to grab a rope and is pulled back by James. Drawing on her experience, Amelia knows that ascending above the cumulonimbus clouds is their best course of action. Together, Amelia and James quickly throw sandbags out of the balloon to reduce the weight of the balloon, causing it to rise rapidly. They tightly hold onto the basket to withstand the fierce winds. After some time, the rain stops and they are greeted by sunlight as the balloon emerges from the clouds. They are awestruck by the breathtaking scenery, a sight they have never witnessed before. To their amazement, they spot a large group of butterflies, revealing that insects can travel on air currents, a remarkable scientific discovery. James diligently records the data and attaches it to pigeons to send to the ground, as a precaution in case they do not make it back alive. Finally, they reach the altitude of 23,000 feet, surpassing the previous record. Amelia is eager to descend, but James insists on continuing the ascent, driven by his ambitious pursuit of scientific knowledge. James is determined to continue his scientific exploration, and despite Amelia's initial reluctance, he persuades her to go along with his plan. However, as they ascend to higher altitudes, James begins to experience hypoxia, causing him to act erratically. He becomes frantic, trying to reduce the weight of the basket and even willing to sacrifice his own life. Amelia, realizing the severity of the situation, slaps James in an attempt to bring him back to his senses. They have now reached an extremely dangerous altitude, and they must descend immediately. Just as they are about to take action, they discover that the gas valve is stuck, preventing them from releasing the gas to descend. The balloon continues to rise, and the cold and lack of oxygen pose an imminent threat to their lives. James loses consciousness, and Amelia takes charge. She makes a daring decision to climb to the top of the balloon to manually open the valve, despite the inherent risks. With great courage, Amelia reaches the top and opens the valve, hoping that the balloon will start to descend. However, a new problem arises as Amelia's boot gets stuck in the valve, causing it to remain open and the balloon to descend rapidly. Amelia makes several attempts to free her boot and close the valve, but time is running out. Finally, she manages to pull her boot free and close the valve, but it is too late. The balloon continues to descend uncontrollably, and their fate seems uncertain. The balloon continues to descend rapidly, despite their attempts to slow it down by throwing out all the objects in the basket. James comes up with a daring solution. They climb to the framework of the balloon and abandon the basket, as it is the heaviest object weighing them down. As they do so, the descent speed does decrease slightly, but it is still not enough to ensure their survival, especially as the balloon is also running out of gas. Amelia, devastated by the situation, offers to sacrifice herself to save James, just as her husband did earlier. However, James refuses to let her go through with it and stops her. Instead, he cuts a few ropes and releases all the remaining gas from the balloon. As the gas escapes, the balloon quickly takes on the shape of a parachute, slowing down the descent. They eventually crash into a wooded area, and although both are slightly injured, they are fortunate to have survived the ordeal. James' findings from the expedition, which successfully proved the existence of atmospheric layers, paved the way for the first weather forecasts. This incredible story is based on true events and is a must-watch for anyone interested in adventure and scientific discovery. This is Movie Breakdown. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.